Let us lend our ears to Trump-Zelensky, the clash of visions before Washington showdown. Good evening, you are watching The Globali and I'm Mousumi. Here is a story that could very well shape the future of the Ukraine war, transatlantic security and the balance of global power. Just hours before stepping into what promises to be a high-stakes meeting in Washington, US, President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky engaged in what some are calling a digital duel, a veiled war of words on social media. On one side, President Trump unapologetically blunt declared that Zelensky could end the war almost immediately, if he chose to. Now, his meaning was unmistakable. A ceasefire is possible, but only if Ukraine steps away from NATO ambitions and perhaps makes unwanted compromises. Similar to the way Crimea slipped into Russia's hands during the Obama years. So on the other side, President Zelensky, fresh off his flight into Washington, fired back not with aggression but with determination. His message was clear. Russia alone is the aggressor, as per Zelensky. Ukraine will not surrender its independence, and any peace must be durable, not another paper guarantee that Moscow can shred tomorrow. He even highlighted battlefield gains in Donetsk and Sumy, signaling that Ukraine is not negotiating from weakness but from resolve. Now the why behind the war of words. Why this clash? Just hours before talks. For Trump, the war in Ukraine is more than foreign policy, it's campaign narrative. He has built his pitch around the idea that he, unlike his predecessors, can end endless wars. By framing Zelensky as someone who could end it tomorrow, Trump shifts responsibility away from Moscow and onto Kyiv. It's a signal. His peace plan may demand painful concessions, even if they come at Ukraine's expense. For Zelensky, however, such framing is existentially dangerous. If Ukraine accepts peace on Moscow's terms, it effectively abandons NATO aspirations, surrenders the principle of sovereignty, and risks being carved up in the same way Crimea was in 2014. For him, lasting peace cannot be built on Russia's promises because, according to him, history shows those promises rarely hold. Now, what this could be? This Washington meeting could go two ways. It could mark the beginning of a serious negotiation process where Trump positions himself as the broker of peace between Ukraine and Russia. Or it could expose the deep fracture between Kyiv's fight for full sovereignty and Trump's willingness to consider territorial concessions or neutrality as the price for peace. If the former happens, the world could see a dramatic shift in the trajectory of the war. If the latter, Zelensky may walk out of Washington feeling cornered not by Moscow but by Washington itself. Now, what is expected? European leaders also joining these talks will likely push for a middle ground. They know a fractured West only empowers the Kremlin. And they fear that if Trump sidelines Ukraine's NATO hopes, it may embolden Russia to test the limits in Eastern Europe, Baltics, Poland, or beyond. So expect Europe to quietly lobby for security guarantees that do not fully abandon Ukraine, but also do not provoke Trump's rejection of NATO expansion. So if we study about Zelensky's mindset, Zelensky enters these talks with two guiding principles. Ukraine's survival depends on independence. Any peace deal must safeguard sovereignty, not suspend it. So the battlefield momentum matters. By showcasing recent gains in Donetsk and Sumy, he's telling Trump and Europe that Ukraine can fight, Ukraine can hold, and he says, do not sell us out for short-term optics. For Zelensky, agreeing to Trump's view would feel like repeating the Minsk trap agreements that froze the war but allowed Russia to regroup and strike again. He wants peace, but not, of course, a false peace. And Trump's mindset? For Trump, the war is a negotiation. His worldview is transactional. Cut the deal, end the bleeding, and claim the credit. His reference to Crimea under Obama is not just history, it's leverage. He's telling Americans that this didn't start with me, with Trump, but I can finish it. Trump's words. But here lies the conflict. Trump sees an immediate end as victory. Zelensky sees a compromised peace as defeat. And here lies the conflict of disagreement. The disagreement is fundamental. Trump's peace is about stopping the war quickly, even if Ukraine compromises. Zelensky's peace is about securing independence, even if it takes years. So one wants speed, the other wants sustainability. One looks at geopolitics, the other at survival. And the bigger question is, so what happens next? If Trump and Zelensky fail to find common ground, will Europe step in to bridge the divide? Will Ukraine be forced to choose between US support and its own red lines? And most critically, if Trump pushes Zelensky toward concessions, does this set a dangerous precedent for smaller nations facing larger aggressors? Because if peace comes at the cost of sovereignty, the world must ask, is it truly peace? Or just the silence before the next storm? That's where the stage is set now in Washington, a clash not just of personalities but of visions. For Zelensky, peace means independence. For Trump, peace means an end. So the next talks could decide whose definition prevails. For more updates and insights, keep watching The Global Eye.